We're here at the Ukraine Recovery Conference in Berlin, and Radek Sikorski, the Polish foreign minister, joins us to speak about the day's events and the overall picture with the war right now. So Ukraine's President Vladimir Zelensky has been here in Berlin. He's really trying to drum up support to get countries to help Ukraine fix its critical infrastructure that's been damaged in this war. For instance, the power system has really been in focus. He said that half of the power system has been knocked out. What do you see as Vladimir Putin's strategy here? What's his plan? Is he trying to essentially freeze the Ukrainians into surrender this winter?
Yes, of course. That's clearly the plan, which is a war crime. You're not supposed to hit civilian targets in a war. But he's an indicted war criminal already for stealing Ukrainian children, so he probably feels he has nothing to lose. And he's hoping that we will not keep up our resolve. But I hope this conference, in which the Chancellor of Germany, the President of the European Commission, other leaders, sketched out long-term plans for supporting Ukraine, convinces him that he can't win.
But what about the short term? And if we look at this situation with power, Zelensky talked about expanding gas production. There's talk from the European Union about raising the amount of solar production to try to create a more resilient system. But how precarious does the power system look going into this winter?
Well, it is precarious, but Ukraine has a few nuclear power plants. I hope the Russians are not crazy enough to attack those, and I remind you that winds blow from the west to east. So that should be a base. But also remember that already during the war, it was actually in late February 2022 that Ukraine synchronized its electricity grid with that of the European Union. And actually for most of that time, since even during the war, Ukraine was exporting electricity to Europe, even though she lost the largest nuclear power plant in Europe, in Zaporozhye. So we will now return the favor by exporting electricity to Ukraine. And yes, it is a priority. We should be sending generators, photovoltaic panels, whatever it takes to help Ukrainians survive the winter.
Now, Zelensky, after speaking at this conference, he also went to the Bundestag, the German parliament, and gave an address there. The far right and the far left parties there, which have just been emboldened in EU elections, by and large boycotted his address. They've been making the case that the West should stop providing arms to Ukraine, that they should open peace talks with Putin. What's your message to those parties?
Well, people who say that there is no military solution actually mean that we should allow Putin to impose his military solution. Putin can end this war in 5 minutes by making one phone call to his defense minister and tell him to get his forces out of Ukraine. Unfortunately, Ukraine doesn't have that option. But far right and far left have been supported by Putin for many years, and not just in cyberspace, also financially, also through agents and meetings and political support. So I'm not surprised. But the center has held in the European elections, from what I can see, the European Parliament will be as supportive of Ukraine as it has been hitherto.
And I mean, Poland is one of Ukraine's very strongest supporters. I mean, for viewers who may not know the reasons why, explain why does this count so much for Poland?
Well, first of all, we were the same country with Ukraine for 400 years. And secondly, we were both victims of Russian colonialism. Russians banned Ukrainian in the 19th century. They also Russified Poland. They've invaded Ukraine and Poland many times more than they were themselves invaded. And they've been trying to degrade Ukraine to the status of Russian folklore. They did it in the 19th century. They did it through genocide in the 20th century. 5 million Ukrainians died in the artificially manufactured famine in the 1930s, accompanied by mass murder of Ukrainian bearers of culture. And they are trying to do it again. First in the occupied territories, where you have stealing of children, forcing people to adopt Russian citizenship, illegally drafting people into the Russian army. It's cultural genocide at the very least, which is completely unacceptable under the principles that we've established after 2 bloody world wars. Putin may not get away with this.
And Poland is right up on, of course, Ukraine's borders. And in fact, some Russian missiles have been flying over Polish territory. In fact, you've been saying today that one missile landed close to your home. Tell us what happened.
Yeah, the Russian missiles get sent towards Ukraine, launched from Russia. They fly along the Polish-Belarusian border, and then they make a turn across Polish territory and hit the Ukrainian city of Lviv. Some others, the Russians lose control of. And this particular one you're referring to, last year, flew across 2/3 of Poland and landed 10 kilometers from my house near the Polish city of Bydgoszcz, which is in straight line about 200, maybe 250 kilometers from the border with Germany. So this is much closer to you than some German people think.
Now, what happens if next time a missile like that lands in Poland and kills Polish citizens? What happens?
Well, 2 Polish citizens have already died because a Russian missile was shot down by Ukrainian air defenses, and the debris killed 2 Polish citizens. So so this is affecting NATO territory, and we have the right to defend ourselves.
So that means you could see NATO shooting down these missiles in future?
Well, certainly if they cross into NATO territory, we certainly have the hope to defend our own airspace.
Because just very, very briefly, the Ukrainians have been saying, well, the West shot down Iranian missiles that were flying over Israel, flying towards Israel. Why doesn't the West do the same to Russian missiles aiming for Ukraine?
We have this discussion, but no decisions have yet been made.
Thank you very much, Radek Sikorski.